Good morning, everyone. Let us start this session. So this is the third lecture of engineering mechanics. In the previous lecture, we have seen the syllabus of engineering mechanics. So this syllabus is mainly divided into two sections. One is the static and second is the dynamics. So the module 1, module 2 and module 3, that is up to friction. It is the part of static. Okay. So in the static, we will study the effect of forces on the bodies which are at the rest condition. Okay. From module 4 up to module 6, so this is the part of dynamics. Okay. So this is the motion analysis by considering the forces. Okay. So depending on that, whether we consider the forces in the motion analysis or the motion analysis without considering the forces, in the dynamic, again, there are two parts. One is the kinetic and second is the kinematics. So module 4 and 5, they are kinematics. Okay, that means it is the motion analysis without considering the forces. So the module 4, it is the kinematics of particle, and module 5, it is the kinematics of rigid body. Okay. So we will discuss in detail afterwards what is the difference between the kinematics of particle and kinematics of rigid body. The module 6, it is entirely on the kinetics. So the name kinetics, it means it is the motion analysis by considering the forces. Okay. So this is your entire syllabus for engineering mechanics. So just I missed out one point in the last lecture, that is the need of mechanics for computer engineers and the electrical engineers. Okay. So as mechanics, that is the engineering mechanics, it is the core subject of mechanical engineering and the civil engineering. Okay. So mechanical engineering and civil engineering, they need engineering mechanics for most of their applications. Okay. So therefore it is the core subject. But other branches, that is computer engineering, artificial intelligence, mechatronics, and the electrical engineering. So why do they need mechanics subject? Okay. So here you can see the application for computer engineers. Why computer engineers need mechanics? So computer engineers collaborate with the mechanical engineer to develop advanced softwares like Autodesk Inventor, then SolidWorks, CATIA, ANSYS, and the HyperMesh. Okay. So these softwares are used in mechanical engineering or the electrical engineering for design of machines, okay, and the analysis of those machines. So for the design purpose and the analysis purpose, mechanical engineer and electrical engineer will use these softwares: Inventor, SolidWorks, CATIA, ANSYS, and HyperMesh. Okay. So these are advanced design and analysis software which are developed by computer engineers by collaborating with the mechanical engineer. Okay. So here you can see the first software, which is the Autodesk Inventor software. So actually it is a CAD software. So the example here given, it is the design of bench vise. So you must have seen such type of bench vise in the carpentry shop. So here only I have shown the user interface of that software. So what is the use of this software? So with the help of this software, we can design a complete machine, or even we can do the analysis on that machine. The second example here, it is the ANSYS software. So this is the ANSYS simulation. So here you can see two examples. One is the airflow on the F1 racing car, and second example is the bending of the railway bridge. Okay. So the simulation software, we can see the physical process. Okay. So in the first example, we can observe the actual airflow on the F1 racing car. And in the second example, we can see the bending of the railway bridge. So these physical processes can be simulated in the ANSYS software. So when computer engineers develop the program for these softwares, like that is the design software or the analysis software, so they need to take the reference of the mathematical equations. Okay. So all these physical processes, that is the airflow or this bending, they have some mathematical model. Okay. So here you can see this is the fundamental mathematical model. So this mathematical model has the term from the engineering mechanics. So you can see here the force term. Then this is the flow, which is represented by capital Q, and this is the velocity. Okay. So actually this equation, it has some partial differentiation and some integration. Okay. So this is fundamental mathematical model. Now this mathematical model need to be simplified with the help of some numerical equations. Okay. So with the help of numerical method, we will simplify these terms like partial differentiation or this integration. Okay. Because computer can't interpret directly this differentiation or integration. Okay. So in order to develop the computer program, this differentiation or this integration need to be simplified into some simple algebraic equations. Okay. So with the help of this numerical method for differentiation and for integration, we can generate these simplified algebraic equations. Okay. And then this algebraic equation, that is a numerical method, will help to develop the computer program. Okay. So this is the MATLAB program. So this program converts these equations into the executable code. Okay. And then this software code will generate the simulations. Okay. So this simulation, basically it depends on such codes. Okay. So we can develop this code in the MATLAB software. So all these are programming softwares. Or we can generate this code in C++ or simple C language, or we can use the Java. Okay. And nowadays we use the language like Python. So with the help of this programming language, we can generate the simulations which will simulate the physical phenomena. Okay. So in order to develop the softwares like design softwares, which is the Autodesk Inventor, or the simulation softwares like ANSYS, the computer engineer must have some fundamental knowledge from the engineering mechanics. Okay. Because finally they are collaborating with the mechanical engineers. So they must have some basic idea about the force, velocity, momentum, and that's why they should learn the engineering mechanics subject. So for the electrical engineer, what is the need of engineering mechanics? So electrical engineers, they work on the design of electrical motors, AC motor, stepper motor, or DC motor. So these motors, they have the vast application in the mechanical engineering. So while designing the motor, they need to find out the torque and the power. Okay. So for the calculation of torque, the fundamental parameter, it is the force, because torque finally it depends on the force value. So this is the basic equation. T is equal to force into distance. Okay. So generally motors, they are used for lifting the objects like, okay, so here one box is being lifted with the help of this pulley, and this pulley is connected with the shaft of the motor. Okay. So this shaft will be subjected to some torque, and this torque will be calculated. So this is the force value, and this is the perpendicular distance, that is R. So here torque is equal to force into radius. Okay. And depending on this torque value, we can calculate the power, and this power, it depends on the angular speed. Okay. So angular speed is the speed of the motor shaft. Okay. And these mechanical parameters, there is a relation with the electrical parameters. Okay. So you can see here, this capital I, it is the current, R is the resistance. Okay. And this is the angular speed. So in order to design the motors, the electrical engineers need to consider the forces and the torque value. Okay. And that's why they should learn the engineer mechanics subject. So here you can see some of the applications for the electrical motors. So first application, so it is the conveyor belt. So conveyor belts, they are used in the industry in order to move the material from one point to the other point. So here you can see some boxes, they are being transported from one point to other point. So this motion of the conveyor belt, so it is carried out with the help of AC motor. Okay, so here you can see the motor is connected. Second application you can see for the motor, it is in the robotics. So the joint movement in the robot, it is controlled with the help of stepper motors. So stepper motor, it is the type of motor. Next application, so it is in the lathe machine. So this lathe machine, they are used in the mechanical industries in order to develop the nut, screw, in order to machine the rods. Okay. So in order to drive this lathe machine, we connect the motor. So here you can see the spindle, and the spindle or the shaft, it is driven with the help of motor. Okay. So in this box, there is a motor, and this is the shaft of motor, which is given to the chuck. Okay. So these are some applications for the AC motor or the stepper motor. So electrical engineer must study the engineer mechanics in order to design the motors. Okay, so after syllabus, the last point, it was the prerequisite. So in the prerequisite, you must know the Newton's law, that is Newton's law of motion, then law of gravitational attraction, then fundamental units for force, mass, velocity, acceleration, energy, power, and momentum. Then concept of center of gravity, concept of force, then principle of transmissibility, and law of parallelogram. Okay, so we will discuss this one by one. So first we will discuss what is the force. So force is an external agent which is capable of changing the state of rest or the state of motion for a particular object or body. So force has a magnitude and the direction. So it is a vector quantity. So force is a pull or push upon an object. Okay, so in simple language, we can define the force like it is a pull effect or the push effect on the object. So here in the example, an object of mass m is acted upon by some force F, which is a 20 Newton. Okay. So if this object is unopposed, then this force 20 Newton, it will change this state of rest. So initially object is at rest, so its velocity is 0. Okay. So when we apply the force on the object, and if there is no opposition, that means there is no force in the opposite direction. So here I will write force value, this is 0. Okay. Then this object, it will change this state. So this is the definition, changing the state of rest or state of continuous motion. So you can see here in the animation, this force will change the state of rest. Okay. So immediately this object will get some acceleration and velocity. So force is a vector quantity. It has a magnitude and direction. So its representation is like this. F is equal to 20 Newton, and we need to show the vector direction. So now we will see the Newton's law of motion. So the first law, so this is the statement of the first law. A body at rest, at state of rest remains at the rest, or if it is in motion, remains in the motion at constant velocity unless acted by an external force. Okay. So this is the example that will demonstrate the Newton's first law. So this football, it is initially at rest condition. So its velocity is 0. Okay. So body at rest will remain at rest condition, or if it is in motion, it will remain in the motion at constant velocity unless and until it is acted upon by some external force. Okay. So as there is no external force in the rest condition, so this football will remain in the rest condition. When we apply some force, that means when we hit the football, it will change the state of rest. Okay. And it will receive some acceleration or some velocity. So this football will continue its motion with constant velocity unless and until it is acted upon by some external force. Okay. So when we hit the football, for some time, it will be in the motion, and finally the football will hit the ground, and then it will come to the rest condition. Okay. So if you observe this motion in the air, then there is a resistance offered by the air. Okay. So this is called as the air drag. So because of this air drag, so this is the actual drag force, which is a FD. So this drag force will offer the resistance to the motion of this football, and that's why after some time its velocity it will go on decreasing continuously, and finally its velocity it will become zero. Okay, so this is the second example where if the object is moving with some constant velocity, so here velocity is constant as per Newton's law. So if the velocity is constant and if there is a no opposition, so you can refer the statement, body at state of rest remain at the rest condition, or if it is in motion will remain in the state of motion at a constant velocity unless it is acted upon by some external force. That means if the object is moving with the constant velocity and if there is a no opposition, that means no external force, or opposing force, then the body will remain at this constant velocity for the infinite time. So the practical application for this constant velocity and no external force, it is in the satellite. Okay, so here one satellite, it is moving with constant velocity in the space. So here v is constant and this is the space. So space basically it is a vacuum. Okay, so in the vacuum there is no air drag or air resistance. Okay, so there is no opposition force for the motion of the satellite. So the satellite will keep moving in the space for million of years with constant speed or the constant velocity, as there is a vacuum and no air resistance to the motion of the satellite. Okay, so if we provide some initial force and if you remove this force after some specific time, okay, then satellite will keep moving with the constant velocity. So you can see here in the animation. So this motion will continue for millions of years as there is a no opposition. Okay, so this is the practical application of the Newton's first law. So satellite maintain its constant velocity for the million of years as there is a no opposition. Okay, then Newton's second law. So the statement is the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the applied force and it takes place in the direction of the net force. Okay, so mathematically we can write the Newton's second law. It is a dp upon dt directly proportional to the applied force, and here p is the momentum. Okay, so statement is rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the applied force. Okay, so here dp by dt is nothing but the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the applied force. Okay, so this dp by dt, that is the rate of change of momentum, is directly proportional to the applied force. Okay, so this is the Newton's second. So this momentum p, its equation is mass into velocity. Okay, so you must have studied the momentum in your 11th or 12th standard. So the change of momentum, it is the difference of final momentum of the object and the initial momentum. Okay, so mass will remain same. So there is no change in the mass. So this dp by dt, basically it is the differentiation of this velocity. Okay, so v2 is the final velocity of the object and v1 it is the initial velocity. So you can understand this with the help of this animation. So here we have the object of mass m. At time t is equal to t1, its velocity is v1, and this object is being acted upon by the external force F. Okay. So this F force, it will cause the change in the momentum. So as long as we apply the force F on any object, it will change its momentum. Okay, because it will create the acceleration in the object, and acceleration will gradually increase or decrease the velocity. Okay, so you can see here, when we apply the force on the object, its initial velocity is v1 at the time t1. At the time t2, its velocity, it will become v2. Okay, so what is the change in momentum? Final momentum is m into v2. And initial momentum is m into v2. And the Newton's second law states that the rate of change of momentum. So when there is a rate, so we need to differentiate with respect to time. Okay, so rate of change of momentum is nothing but change of momentum upon change of time. So if you put this value mv2 minus mv1 upon t2 minus t1. Okay, so mv2 minus mv1 is nothing but dp, and t2 minus t1 is the dt. Okay, so it is a change in time and this is change in momentum. Now here we can take m common from this equation. So remaining term is v2 minus v1 upon t2 minus t1. Okay, now what is meaning of v2 minus v1 upon t2 minus t1? It is change in velocity upon change in time. So that is nothing but the acceleration. So you know the equation for acceleration. This is equal to dv upon dt. Okay, so dv is nothing but v2 minus v1 and dt is nothing but t2 minus t1. So this term we can replace as the acceleration. And this is the equation that we use commonly. F is equal to mass into acceleration. Okay, and this is the derivation for the Newton's second law. So basically this acceleration, it comes from the change in momentum equation. Okay, and from this equation, mass into acceleration, the unit for the force is kg meter per second square. So meter per second square, it is for acceleration and kg is for the mass. Okay, and then we take this 1 kg meter per second square, it is equivalent to 1 Newton. Okay, and therefore we take the unit of force. Suppose force is 20 Newton. So actually 20 kg meter per second square. Okay. So actually in the equation, sorry, in the Newton's second law, we don't have this equality sign. Okay, we have the proportionality sign. So that is the statement. Rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the applied force. Okay, but why do we write m is equal to mass, sorry, F is equal to mass into acceleration? Okay, actually we should write F directly proportional to mass into acceleration. Okay, but we write this equation directly, F is equal to mass into acceleration. So when we can replace this proportionality into equality, if we have some constant, Okay, so you know this mathematical procedure to convert the proportionality into equality. Okay, so when we have some constant, then we can convert the proportionality into equality. So this constant k, it must have the value 1. Okay, then we can write F is equal to mass into acceleration. So this constant we can calculate by conducting the physical experiment on the mass. Okay, so here you can see the graph. So from the graph you can understand why do we take proportionality or proportionality constant as a 1. So here I have taken the force value on the x-axis. Okay, and this is the mass into acceleration. That means